y to the fourth, all raised to the 1/4 power over x to the 2/3, y to the 3/2 times x to the negative 3/2 and y to the 1/2. I will say that I noticed some of you probably used Photomath on this. I'll just go ahead and put that out there. If you're going to use Photomath, use it to check your work. Don't use it just to do your work for you. Use it as kind of a way to check yourself. Okay, so the first thing I want to do here is I want to kind of make sure that this exponent goes, this is power to a power, so we're multiplying those exponents. It's kind of like distributing, but not really. It's kind of like distributing, that's what I'll say. So you're going to multiply negative 1/2 times 1/4. Okay, so if you've got your calculator, I can show you how to do this here. Go to the math button, arrow all the way over to fraction, and hit enter. Whoop. I don't know what. Okay, so the first fraction, we have negative 1/2 and then times 1/4. Sorry, it's kind of slow to do this way, but I just wanted you to see how it's done. So you get negative 1/8. Okay, that's how you do that in the calculator. Okay, so on the top here, this is going to be negative 1/8. Okay, and then you're going to multiply 4 times 1/4. You really don't need the calculator to do that. You really didn't need it for the other one, but 4 times 1 is 4. So that's just 4/4, which is just 1. So this is y to the first power. Are we good with that step?
Yeah.
Okay. Now on the bottom, what you can do you see, let me get my highlighter out. We've got like bases here and here, and we have like bases here and here. When you have like bases and you're multiplying, you can simply add your exponents. That kind of goes back to, let's say, x squared times x cubed. Well, that gives you x to the 5th power. Same concept here, except you're just multiplying, sorry, you're adding fractions. Instead of 2 and 3, we have 2/3 and negative 3/2. We're adding those fractions. This is where the calculator is very beneficial. So let me go back to that color. Keep things consistent. Come on, there we go. My smartboard's a little slow to respond for whatever reason. So we have 2/3 minus 3/2, or 2/3 plus negative 3/2. Okay, so math, fraction. Actually, I think I've already done this. Yeah, let me look at my notes. I want to save time, but also, okay, so 2/3 plus negative 3/2 should give you negative 5/6. That's from doing 2/3 plus negative 3/2. When you add those fractions, I get negative 5/6. Then for the y, you do the same thing. You're going to add these fractions. You're going to add 3/2 plus 1/2. And that's just going to give you 4/2, or 4/2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Are we good with this step?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Now, whenever you are dividing, so this is x to the negative 1/8 divided by x to the negative 5/6. You can subtract your exponents. But before we do that, I like to get rid of my negative exponent. And how you get rid of that, a negative exponent, you move it. So the x to the negative 1/8, that is in the top. If I move that entire thing to the bottom, the exponent is positive now. So I'm going to do that with the other one as well. It's in the bottom. So I'm going to move it to the top, and that's going to be positive 5/6. Okay. And then here, we can go ahead and subtract the 1 and the 2. What's 1 minus 2? Negative 1, right? Okay. So now that we have this, we can subtract 5 over 6 minus 1 over 8. Okay, what do you get when you subtract those? You should get 17 over 24. So we have, at this point, we have x to the 17 over 24, y to the negative 1. Okay, if there's nothing in the bottom. But because we have that negative exponent, we don't want to leave a negative exponent. So we are going to move that entire thing to the bottom. So the final answer here is x to the 17 over 24 power over y. Does that help? Do you still have questions as to how I did something?
Wait, how'd you move the y down there?
Because it's got a negative exponent, and you don't want a negative exponent. You don't want to leave your final answer as a negative exponent.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So if you just had, let's say you just had x to the negative 1, how you get rid of that negative, it's just 1 over x or x to the first power. That's how you get rid of a negative exponent. You move it. Okay. And that's all I did. I moved this y to the negative 1 power to the bottom of the fraction. And there's still technically a 1 here, but you don't have to write it. And it's positive. Okay. Any other questions on the those that you had 10 questions from the iHeart exponents page? Any other questions from that? Okay, I will take the silence as a no. Okay, and then what about the review page from yesterday? Do you have any questions from there? What about 15?
Number 11.
Number 11. Okay, let me see that. Find where that is. Okay. So number 11 says, get my paper out. You have 3x to the 3 over 2, 3/2 power, y to the 5/3 power times 2x to the 1/2 power. Okay. So anytime you have like bases, anytime you have that, you can, and you're multiplying, you can add those exponents. So we are going to add 3/2 and 1/2. Okay. And then the other part, you just do the math. 3 times 2 is 6. X to the 3/2 times x to the 1/2. You're adding those fractions. 3/2 plus 1/2 is 4/2. And then we have y to the 5/3. Okay. So then just reduce that. What's 4 divided by 2?
2.
Yep. And that's your answer. Okay, what else do you have? I want to go over at least one more question.
Number 8 on the first sheet.
Yeah. Let me just find that paper. So number 8, yeah, you had, okay. This is from the iHeart exponents. You had the square root of 81x squared times 64 x cubed, and that's all raised to the negative 1/3 power. Okay. First, right off the bat, I see that we can reduce this. You know the square root of 81 is 9. You know the square root of x squared is x. Okay. Here, we have to make sure that that negative 1/3 goes with everything. It goes with the 64 and the x cubed. So we're going to raise 64 to the negative 1/3 power. I'm leaving that negative exponent for now, and then we will take care of it in a minute. Okay. And then 3 times negative 1/3. That's just negative 3/3, which is just negative 1. See how I got that? Okay, I'll take that as a yes, unless you say otherwise. From here, you know, technically you can make anything a fraction. I'm just going to put it over 1. And for negative exponents, if you want to get rid of the negative, you have to rearrange. You have to move. So I'm going to move this whole thing to the bottom. That's going to get rid of the negative exponent. I'm going to move this whole thing to the bottom. That's going to get rid of that negative exponent. So on the top, I have 9x. On the bottom, I'm going to have 64 to the 1/3 power. And then I'm going to have x to the first power, or just x. Okay. And there's a lot of different ways you can think of it. Right now, I also see that, you know, technically this has a 1, right? And, you know, if you're multiplying x to the first power times x to the negative 1 power, what is that? Add those, you get 0, right? That's just another way to think about these. Okay. Or you can also say, okay, that cancels out. One's on top, one's on bottom. Okay, so there is more than one correct way to look at these. Now we just need to reduce 64 to the 1/3 power. So that's really the cubed root of 64 all raised to the first power. Well, what is the cubed root of 64? You can type that in your calculator. What times itself 3 times gives you 64?
Eight.
4 times 4. I think it's 4.
Never mind.
No,
Oh, yeah, never mind.
you might be right. Hold on. You're right. No, never mind. It is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. And you can plug that in your calculator. Okay. If you need help with that, just stay after and I'll show you how to do that in your calculator. So the cubed root, sorry, my screen is not working out too well. Cubed root of 64 is 4, so this is just 9/4. That was your final answer. Any other questions from either this page or the page you had yesterday? Anything? Okay, if you have no more questions, that's really all I had planned for today. I hope nobody else tried to join.